Hello, everybody, wherever you may be, from coast to coast and sea to shining sea. My name's Larry. My call sign, amateur radio, is Kilo 7 Hotel November. Here will be your solar forecast for not only the next couple of days, but also a little bit out of the normal 2-day forecast. We're going to be also forecasting for CQ Worldwide Sideband this weekend. It all starts here with the A1A. This is where we see the sunspots coming off the edges of the sun here on the left side, which is called the east limb. You can see two areas there, one at 10 o'clock and a bright area where you see the halo of solar energy coming right there on the southern hemisphere. We're going to have sunspot regions both in the north and southern hemisphere of the sun returning, and this should be a great weekend for CQ Worldwide SSB. Phenomenal. I think we're definitely going to hit that 125 to 140 range that I forecast last Friday in the extended forecast. Here's a back view of the sun. This shows those two areas that are coming, one in the rectangle at 10 o'clock, one in the small square there at 8 o'clock. These are sunspot regions hopefully coming our way to help continue to increase our SFI throughout the weekend and into the early part of next week. The magnetosphere view of the sun, this is taking all the brightness away and just focusing on the sunspots and the sunspot regions. Here it was 5 days ago, and you can watch as the sunspots revolve from left to right. That's the east limb of the sun to the west limb of the sun. Currently, you see 3133 and 3131. 3131 has been very active. It's been shooting some good C flares, almost an M flare yesterday, and expect some good conditions from that sunspot region. 3130 as well, down at the southern part of the sun, right about, let's say, 5 o'clock. That will still be here for CQ Worldwide Weekend, which is a big deal. We want to keep that sunspot. It's got a big area, and it will help to continue to pump our SFIs up. Also, 3132 will also survive through the weekend, so that's good news with new sunspots coming from the east limb to the west, and then, the ones that are here should make us some good solar flux index numbers for the coming weekend. Here's a good example of how you can tell the SFI is going to come up. Take a look at the solar flare detection map for the last 3 days. 2 days ago, it was below the sea level, and it stayed that way until late yesterday when it made a jump up to the sea level baseline. That's where it's at currently, and that means SFIs will again today rise. So we're going to hit that 125 to 140 range over the weekend. Now, the coronal hole map looks just like a Halloween pumpkin. And Solar Ham made a good comment about this too. Interesting how it looks, right? You got coronal hole 36, 37, and 38 facing Earth, but these aren't giving us a big solar wind component, so that's a good sign. We've got good solar wind today, but it's interesting to take a look at the way this looks today. Global D-layer absorption. This would be the D-layer absorption of your amateur radio bands below 10 megahertz. Remember, the D layer is the most charged, followed by E and F. We try and hit the E or F layer to refract our signals really strong. But in this case, we have a pretty interesting situation going on with the D layer. Currently, if we take a closer look at this, and this would be where the sun is shining overhead, as you get away from it, it diminishes quite a bit. 40 meters daytime, about 2 dB of attenuation. If you're going to be on 80, close to 4 dB today. So you can still make calls as normal, but you've got a little bit of attenuation on those bands. Your SFI today, 122. That's up 6 from yesterday. Smooth sunspot number is at 78. That's also up 6. Area number is also up 90 to 430. These are really important metrics. We know that the number's going to come up based on the last few days of solar activity. But what we see when we get to this slide here is we see that every one of the solar metrics is up, which is great. I expect the SFI later today to be released between 125 and 130. That puts us right in the range we talked about last Friday for CQ Worldwide SSB. Now, the other side of the coin is noise floors, and this is the bad news for this weekend. Currently KP3, that's unsettled within the static levels here on our amateur radio bands. This is noise floors basically, how high they will be, how much baseline static you'll have, if you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. KP3 currently, that is unsettled, and we're going to have some noise floor issues over the weekend, and unfortunately, this year it happens right on Saturday for CQ Worldwide. Look at the forecast the next 3 days. Today, a KP3. Now, a 3 is unsettled, S2 to S3 for your noise floors. Tomorrow, a 4, but not a geomagnetic storm at a 4. It'll be an active time for geomagnetic field towards Earth, S3 to S4 range for tomorrow. And then on Friday, G1 storm is forecasted up to a KP5. That's a minor geomagnetic storm. Noise floors could be S4 to S6 on Saturday for CQ Worldwide. That's the bad news. Current Kilo Charlie 2 Golf map. This is the MUFs worldwide, and they are absolutely beautiful. You can see 10 meters where the yellow is, the yellow lines and the yellow numbers there, as well as the yellow on the screen, is where 10 meters is active. This is a great thing because this means during the weekend, you're going to be able to make great calls. I mean, it's going to be packed on 20 meters. It's going to be packed on 15, and it's going to be really strong on 10 as well. And 15 and 10, both very wide frequencies to work. Closer look at the northern hemisphere towards Europe. See the pipeline between the States and Europe? Well, it works the same way south during the middle of the day. In Europe, you've got good SFIs into southern Sweden and Norway, all the way down into the African continent, and now all the way over towards North America. Starting with MUFs in North America, 14 megahertz currently in Fairbanks, and the 10-meter band at 10:55 here, Pacific time in North America, is literally at the border with Canada. You're seeing 10 meters in Toronto and Montreal, most likely in Saskatchewan. It's there by now. Also Alberta and British Columbia. These places are on 10 meters now. So good conditions for you to work your radio. And it goes south and it also heads east towards Europe. So some great pipeline going on between those two continents here. And if you look at the South continent, South America, all 10 meters except for a little swath there, just a tiny little part where you're going to be on the 12-meter band. But for the most part, they're all 10 meters. Same with Africa. It's going to be the same thing. So between South America and Africa this weekend, you should be great for CQ Worldwide, as well as working north into either North America or Europe from South America or Africa. Final look will be in the southeast part of our world. In Japan, about 11 megahertz right now, so they're just a little bit shy of 20 meters, but they'll be there shortly. Look at Australia. My goodness, 16 megahertz at the north of the Gold Coast, 17 in Brisbane. That means almost the 17-meter band. The southern portion near Sydney, around 13 megahertz, so just off the 20-meter band. 10 megahertz currently if you're in Tasmania, 16 megahertz on the west coast of Australia, and 14 megahertz west, the southwest coast there. So in Perth, right about the 20-meter band, in the dark. That's going to be a good day for you guys in the southern part of our world towards Australia and New Zealand. Definitely 20, 17, 15, 12 in the 10-meter band your way. Here is QRZ's conditions. SFI 122, sunspot number 71, A index is 5, K is 3, and if you look at the K index just at the bottom level of information there, bottom left, it says geomag field unsettled. That would be what a K3 will provide. And below that unsettled, you see what the signal noise level is, S2 to S3. So we've got some conditions are getting a little loud here. 6-meter E-skip is open today. Try and find your opening on some sporadic E. Aurora workers, you got a high latitude aurora tonight, so you can work the aurora. And moon bouncers have good conditions this weekend to make some calls there as well. So this is good forecast. Your HF conditions there, I just don't believe them. They're not that. I mean, we've got good conditions from 80 to 10 meters right now. The BZ latitude is one component here that was on QRZ that would be of concern. That's the BZ minus 1.0. That's the bottom of the top left group of information. So minus 1.0. Solar wind is not heavy, but it's getting a little bit loud. We don't want that over 500 kilometers per second. It's now at 421.6. But as for the Bravo Zulu latitude, that means that the radiation that's coming from the sun is hitting our south pole more than it's hitting the north pole on the world. And what that means in the northern hemisphere, you're going to have a lot of QSB today, a lot of fade in signals. So just be prepared to work maybe a diversity antenna system or possibly a good beverage, something like that. You may be able to make better calls that way. The Spacec Weather Live app shows that we're going to have a southern-facing BZ latitude, but also one going north today. So it's going up and down. I mean, that's the way it's going to be. But we've got some positive BZ latitude coming, which means that QSB will disappear for a little bit. So we've got some decent, this is a good day to work your radio. It really is. Solar cycle 25 progression. This is sunspot number information. The pink line going up is where they're now expecting sunspot cycle 25 to reach. If it does so, that will be right about where sunspot cycle, say it a little faster, sorry, sunspot cycle number 23 was, which was fantastic. Almost hit 250 a couple of times there. And they're saying now the progressions that we've had may be up to 200 sunspots. Now, if that happens, our SFI is going to go way up into the 200s as well. This is your SFI information, and right now we have met the peak that NOAA forecast back before solar cycle 25 began. So currently we're way ahead of conditions, and way ahead means probably peaking sometime mid-2024 to late 2024. Some very decent metrics here for sunspot cycle number 25. Your ham and shortwave forecast for today, as well as for the weekend for CQ Worldwide. Sideband, going to be a good time to work your radio. SFIs to rise this weekend to the 125 to 140 range. I'd forecast that last Friday, and it's looking like it was a good forecast. It should be good, and I should say it should still rise and continue to rise through Monday. So that's good. Noise floors are the problem tonight. Today, S1 to S3 at times today, S3, S4 tomorrow, and possibly as high as S4 to S6 on Saturday. Just keep an eye on your noise floors. Voice bands in the Northern Hemisphere, 20, 17, 15, 12 in the 10-meter band. Equatorial latitudes, that's tropic to tropic, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. Southern Hemisphere should be really good, south of 45 degrees south in the Southern Hemisphere, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. Data modes were great, 30 to 10 meters in north, mid, and south latitudes. CB radio skip also open, north, mid, and south. If you work CB on 11 meters, you're going to make some good DX calls today. Nighttime, amateur radio bands, noise floors S1 to S3 tonight, rising to a possible S3 to S4 Saturday night. Nighttime, amateur radio bands open. And by the way, those noise floors are really about 40, 60, 80, 75, and 160. They're not going to really cover too much of the 20-meter band or the 30-meter band. So we talk about high noise floors. Make sure you understand the 30 and 20-meter band aren't impacted nearly as much as this. Your nighttime ham band openings will be 160, 80, 75, 60, 40, 30. Remember, your best DX of the day is on your maximum usable frequency at sunset. Take a look on the map at Kilo Charlie 2 Golf, so KC2G. Find out exactly where the maximum usable frequency is where you live, and then work right below it. You'll make some amazing calls tonight. Then as you go on through the evening, work the lower bands into 40 and 80 meters. Shortwave listeners, your daytime bands available today will be 31, 25, 22 in the 90-meter band, and nighttime shortwave noise floors tonight, S1 to S3, possibly S3 to S4 by Saturday night. We'll have to hopefully pray and hope it doesn't get that high. Bands open in the evening on shortwave, 120, 90, 75, 60, 49, 41, 31, 25, 22, and great 19-meter DX is available in the Southern Hemisphere for about the 90-minute mark after sunset, and the signals will fade away. It's going to be a great day to work your radio, and excellent conditions for CQ Worldwide. We're going to have a SFI that's going to be right in that 125 to 140 range, so nice SFI, great for making calls, just that the noise may be a little bit high on the bands that are 10 megahertz and lower. Okay, please don't forget, I've got a very special guest, and he doesn't give many interviews anymore. Martin F. Jew, Mr. MFJ, joins me today at 1900 UTC. I would love to have you join us. That's 3 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone of North America, noon Pacific, 8 p.m. London. I know it's early in Australia, but if you can get up maybe around 6 a.m., you can meet Martin F. Jew. I am honored to have him. October, by the way, was his 50th year of being in MFJ. You know, I want to also apologize for the way I look. I had skin cancer surgery yesterday, but you know, this forecast is important because it covers a very important weekend that we have in amateur radio. It's going to be a great weekend to work your radio. Wherever you may be, I'll be back with Martin F. Jew at 1900 UTC. My name's Larry. My call sign amateur radio is Kilo 7 Hotel November. Thanks for watching this HF Solar Weather segment, and I appreciate your time. Goodbye, everybody.